Tonight, our special coverage on Israel's war on Palestine, as a New York Times report suggests that Israeli intelligence had been aware of Hamas's attack over a year in advance. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Zahra Sayed. Today is the 55th day since Israel started its war on Palestine. Soon after the expiration of the 7-day truce, Israel's military has resumed its operations in Gaza. Gaza health officials say at least 7 people have been killed since Friday morning in Israeli bombing. Leaflets dropped in southern Gaza are signaling an expanded offensive. UNICEF has expressed concern about the emotional toll on children caught in conflict as air attacks resume. The Qassam Brigade's Hamas's armed wing says it has attacked the cities of Ashkelon, Sderot, and Beersheba in southern Israel with rocket barrages. The truce deal brokered by Qatar saw 86 Israeli hostages released in exchange for 240 Palestinian prisoners. Hamas also released 24 foreigners during the truce. Despite international mediation efforts for an extension, the truce ended at 7 a.m. local time. Aid deliveries to Gaza via the Rafah crossing in Egypt have also halted due to the Israeli bombardment. The Israeli army says 5 members of the security forces have been wounded due to a mortar strike around the southern community of Narim. Israeli authorities have arrested at least 12 Palestinian citizens overnight in cities across the occupied West Bank, including in Jenin, Hebron, Tulkarem, and Ramallah. Palestinian Prisoner Society says at least 3,400 Palestinians have been taken into Israeli custody since the start of Israel's war on Palestine. More than 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in Israel's bombing. In Israel, the official death toll stands at 1,200. Ahed Tamimi, a Palestinian activist from a village in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, is amongst the several female prisoners released by Israel during the truce. The 22-year-old is best known for her confrontation of Israeli soldiers 6 years ago. Tamimi has revealed the shocking conditions faced by 30 Palestinian women in the Israeli jails. She says 10 of these women prisoners are from the Gaza Strip, who were arrested in the recent Israeli ground operation. Tamimi says Palestinian female prisoners face daily abuse. She says they are left without water or clothes. They sleep on the floor and are beaten by Israeli soldiers. Tamimi says the Israeli authorities have threatened to target her father if she speaks about the humiliating conditions in prison. However, she says Palestinians are stronger than the occupation. She says Palestinians will continue resisting until they are free. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has rejected any collaboration with Israel's plans to segregate Gaza during a meeting with the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Abbas says Gaza is an integral part of the Palestinian state. He has called for a long-lasting ceasefire to protect civilians from Israeli aggression. He says there is a need for increased humanitarian aid, medical assistance, and basic necessities for Gaza. Abbas presented Blinken with a comprehensive dossier detailing Israeli occupation crimes in Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem. He urged the United States to intervene against Israeli attempts to forcibly evict Palestinians in the West Bank, particularly in the Jordan Valley. Before meeting with Abbas, Blinken had discussions in Israel. Hamas's attack caught Israel off guard with a surprise attack on October 7th. At least 1,500 Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel. 1,200 Israelis lost their lives in the crossfire between Hamas and Israeli forces. More than 240 Israelis and foreigners were taken hostage by Hamas. However, despite the Israeli government's stance that the attack was a surprise, a New York Times report says otherwise. The report says that Israel had knowledge of Hamas's plan over a year in advance. It says Israeli intelligence compiled a 40-page document codenamed Jericho Wall. It detailed a sophisticated assault that Hamas executed on October 7th. Israeli officials, however, dismissed the plan as too complex for Hamas to carry out. The Jericho Wall document circulated amongst the military and intelligence leaders, but it remained unclear whether top political leaders, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, saw it. The New York report says United States intelligence also knew about the Hamas's attack. It says the U.S. intelligence received warnings from Israel about the heightened risk of conflict before the October 7th attack. Reports from September 28th and October 5th highlight the escalating threat. The report from October 6th indicates an unusual Hamas activity signaling an imminent attack. However, these assessments did not provide details of the operation's scale. Intelligence shared with the United States revealed that a small Hamas cell planned the attack over 2 years. They used hardwire phones in tunnels beneath Gaza for secure communication. The avoidance of digital communication and face-to-face meetings helped Hamas evade Israeli and U.S. intelligence detection during the 2-year period. Israel is facing scrutiny over its United Nations membership for allegations of non-compliance with refugee return conditions. Dr. Daoud Abdullah, director of Middle East Monitor, a not-for-profit press monitoring organization, has highlighted a significant event in Israel's relationship with the United Nations. He points to the rejection of Israel's initial UN application in 1948. At that time, Israel had declared independence by expelling Arabs from their Palestinian lands. In May 1949, Israel was admitted as a UN member. However, its admission as a member state was contingent upon adherence to the Charter and the implementation of Resolution 194. The resolution called for the repatriation of refugees. Dr. Abdullah says Israeli officials are again forcing Palestinians in Gaza to move to the southern part of the enclave. He says Israel is also openly threatening to expel Palestinians to the Sinai Desert. He says Israel's actions are violating international conventions and moral standards. He is calling for a re-evaluation of Israel's UN membership and potential suspension due to the non-compliance with its membership terms. Media rhetoric plays an important role during war and conflict. It helps shape perceptions and can lead to powerful movements. Since Israel's war on Palestine, there have been certain phrases by world leaders that have been echoing through different mediums. Qatar-based news network Al Jazeera has analyzed speeches of 118 world leaders at the United Nations. Some of these leaders supported Israel's aggression, while others called for a ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's declaration of war following a Hamas attack sparked international responses. Following Netanyahu's intent of war, the United States affirmed Israel's right to self-defense. Over 7 weeks, Israel dropped thousands of tons of explosives, causing significant casualties. A key linguistic difference emerged: ceasefire versus pause. Al Jazeera reports that 55% of the countries called for a comprehensive ceasefire. On the other hand, Israel's allies advocated for a mere pause. They consist of 23 nations. Canada is one of them. 54 countries use the term occupier in reference to Israel, or called Palestinian territory occupied. On the other hand, 64 countries in the United Nations did not mention occupation in their speeches or statements. Only 23% of nations made reference to Israel's 16-year-old blockade of the Gaza Strip by using terms like siege or open-air prison. The mention of settlers or settlements is also limited. Only 30% of nations, most in the global south, mentioned these terms, despite all the settlements being illegal under international law. In Ottawa's southeast end, the police are actively investigating a series of anti-Palestinian posters. CTV News uncovered one of these offensive signs at a South Keys bus stop. The posters contained derogatory remarks about Arabs and Palestinians. There is an individual's name and address printed on these posters. However, police investigations show that the named individual is not involved in creating nor distributing the posters. Ottawa Police are now probing the origins of these posters. The exact number distributed remains unclear. The police say they have a zero-tolerance policy for hate-motivated incidents. They say they are fully committed to finding the offenders of the law and urging anyone with information to come forward. The Muslim community in the Chatham-Kent is trying to establish a local cemetery. Chatham-Kent is a municipality in southwestern Ontario. It has a population of a little over 100,000. Out of these, nearly 1,000 of them identify as Muslims. A recent report presented to the Chatham-Kent Council highlights the quest of Muslim residents for a dedicated burial site. Following this report, 2 private cemeteries have shown interest in accommodating the Muslim community's needs. These cemeteries are ready to fulfill their condition, that people can be buried facing Mecca, which is a significant requirement in Islamic tradition. Bakhtiar Ahmed, the Imam of Jamia Masjid Chatham Mosque, has praised the generosity and care of the Chatham-Kent community. He says it is very important for Muslims to have a local cemetery given the limited options in nearby areas. Chatham-Kent officials are open to exploring solutions. Municipality officials say providing a local cemetery will attract newcomers to the area from the Greater Toronto area. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad. Assalamu alaikum.